and welcome to the 2025 Red Meat Update Virtual Farm Tour. We've got the working group members here, and today we're out at Cluden, Newry. I'm Matt.
I'm Will.
I'm Hugh.
I'm Andrew.
I'm Jason from Pinion Advisor, and we're very proud to be sponsoring this year's Virtual Farm Tour.
So we're here at Cluden, Newry, and Jock Hughes has been kind enough to host the Virtual Farm Tour today. So g'day, Jock.
Thanks for coming out, Andrew. Look forward to it.
So can you just give us a rundown of what happens here?
Yeah, so we're here at Jesse Field, which is about 800 hectares. So here we've got sheep and seed stock cattle and cropping, and we'll go and have a look at another farm at Mount Direction, which is Biddle Creek, which is about 550 hectares, which is cows, and then another lease block at Perth, which is also cows.
All commercial.
All commercials there, yep.
Can you just tell us a little bit about the history of Jesse Field and how you got to where you are today?
Family's been here 100 years next year. Bought Jesse Field in 1926. We sort of migrated from over the hill near the airport. Claire and I took on the lease of the farm here in 2016. And since then, in 2018, we bought the farm at Mount Direction and took on a lease in 2023 at Perth. Yeah, so the team here, there's three of us full-time, including myself, Pete and Mark. We all are across most things, with each of us have our own strengths, I guess. Pete's got dogs, so he does a lot more of the livestock, and Mark's very good with all the capital projects. So here, I think our rainfall is about 620 mils. Typical Tasmania is distributed throughout the year and gets a lot wetter in winter when it doesn't evaporate. Mount Direction's probably more like 800 mils, a bit higher rainfall up there, but yeah, similar distribution.
Right, Jock, so you guys are known for your beef stud operation, so tell us a bit about, the beef and where you are today with that.
So yeah, that was started by my grandfather in 1956, and then driven a lot by my father. Today we've got about 400 registered cows that we carve down, selling 120 odd bulls a year across 2 sales.
Who's the key driver behind that, and how do you staff that?
In terms of genetics, they're sort of sourced from Australia, New Zealand and the US predominantly. We use an advisor, Dick Whale, and my father still is heavily involved in that in terms of selecting size to use within the stud and doing a lot of the joinings. We have a bit of a breeding objective that we stick to, and as long as the bulls fit those criteria, certainly, Dick and Peter do a lot of the research around that, what's suitable to bring in. So everything's AI'd by a fixed time AI and then a second round of returns.
Pretty successful recently. What are you striving for?
Yeah, uppercut, he's our breeding objective really. He fits the criteria of what we're looking for, so calving is high growth with an eye to carcass. So we need a bit of fat cover in Tassie, I think, with the grass finish market. You want to be able to sell your animals when the season cuts out, not hanging on to them until they get 5 mils of fat, and an eye to maintaining eating quality going forward.
You host on-site bull sales here. What's the process look like, and is that a successful selling form?
So we do 2 different sales. So one's an open cry auction and one's a helmsman auction, both of them on farm. It's a long process, I suppose, starting from obviously the breeding of them, but then you've got to video them for Auctions Plus and semen test and catalogue them, etc. So normally a pretty long lead up, and pretty happy to get them out of the way.
So tell us a bit about the Prime Lamb enterprise.
So we run a system where we just buy in replacement ewes and join everything to a terminal sire and finish the lambs. We aim for about a 23 kilo carcass with, I guess, a little bit of flexibility pending season. This year we've joined 2,000 ewes, so we joined for a winter lambing, lamb late June, early July. We didn't buy any ewes in this year. We're just sort of weighing up the returns versus whether we want to keep running ewes, I guess. They're certainly very handy on the irrigation, the lambs. Finishing about 4,000 lambs this year. We trade a few.
So in recent times you've expanded into the commercial beef enterprise in a big way, so tell us a bit about that and how that fits with the Mount Direction property.
2018 is when we bought Mount Direction and moved into commercial beef. I guess we were looking to grow the business, and it's easily scalable, I think, simple systems. We did 2 years of buying in heifers out of the mainland when things were pretty dry over there and joining them. We had some pretty ordinary conception rates and stuff early on. We had no facilities and pretty light animals coming out of the mainland. But so that enabled us to build a base of breeders while still finishing the remainder of them. So those girls are getting towards the end of their life now. We carve about 700 commercials at the moment, so we're targeting the feeder steer market. This year's the first year that we've sold everything to the feedlot. It's been a work in progress. Being overstocked, selling calves, to selling light stores. As the property's developed, we've got into a system where cows are culled out of the seed stock herd, they go into the commercial herd. So it uses our surplus stock from here, I guess, which we think aren't good enough to remain in the stud, but are still good functional cows. We join everything with yearling bulls at 14, 15 months of age. All heifers and cows commercially are joined with the yearling bulls, which then come home and we then sell them through the sale in March. So it's pretty complementary in that respect. We get access to what we think are the best genetics commercially.
So with the commercial side of the beef enterprise, you're targeting feedlot entry weights, and what are the markets and where do you expect that to go?
I've followed the systems that they run on Flinders Island, and they seem really efficient, scalable enterprises, and it's sort of something that we aspired to do commercially. So the target would be that 400 to 500 kilo steer, which gives you flexibility to get out of them earlier if need be, if the season dictates. About 350 steers to the feedlot is the target. All the heifers are joined, and we'll either sell them PTIC or fatten and surplus and send to Greenhams or JBS. This is the second year of irrigation up there, so I guess we were selling a lot of store heifers, and we'll probably still have to do that, dictated by season. This year was a pretty good summer, I guess, for us after those late spring rains, so able to finish everything. But you've got a bit of flexibility there, but at the moment it's the weaners need every bit of green grass they can get. So.
So Jock, can you give us an outline on how Jesse Field fits in with the role it plays with the business?
Jesse Field's obviously the home base. It's where everyone meets of a morning. We'll go from here. It's where all the cropping, sheep and seed stock are run. Mount Direction and Perth, there's not a lot of gear. We'll just head out from here and do whatever jobs we need to do. Being commercial beef, there's not a lot of jobs to do. It's pretty simple, so here's where the bulk of the work is done, I guess. Jesse Field's pretty well fully developed. I think my father started in 2005 with pivots, and there's not a lot of room to do anything else here. So. And
then on Biddle Park and things in terms of development, what have you got over there?
In terms of irrigation, so we've put in 95 hectares of irrigation since we've had that. There was a dam there, so the temptation was there to use it.
What did you have to do, or how did you prioritise your sort of infrastructure work over there to be able to run the livestock you've got there?
So that was ex-plantation. There wasn't any sticks on it when we got it, but not a lot of pastures or fences either, so we started with fencing and water. It was all 2-wire electric, so it's pretty simple and quick to develop. And then drainage has been a pretty big thing down there. That's an ongoing battle. Wilton Gill, the fellow who had it before us, put in some major drains, but we've done quite a lot of in-paddock drainage to try and get the water off down there. It's a pretty wet block. The biggest challenge down there was the wet winters, like when we first established the pastures and we had a fair few cattle on, probably the soil structure wasn't there, so it was a bit of a wet mess for a while. Now that the pastures are cranking a bit more and a bit of drainage work's been done, it's not such a challenge.
In terms of having the separate properties, what are the big challenges that you guys have between having disjointed properties, I suppose?
It's 45 minutes to Mount Direction. Perth's obviously only 5 or 10. Adding irrigation at Mount Direction's thrown a bit of a curveball in terms of bog pivots and broken fences and those sorts of challenges, which when they happen at home aren't such an issue, but when it's an hour and a half just to fix it, it's a bit more of a challenge. So, but on the flip side, expanding and having more people on the farm shares the workload a lot. When it was just yourself, you're responsible for everything, but now we've got a bit of a team. We have a weekend roster, and you can have a break, I guess, because there's others there to fill your shoes. So we didn't have any yards when we took on the block. We were fortunate enough to be able to borrow Brett Hooper's yards next door to unload cattle when we first got them. So that was a challenge, operating without yards for a period, but got a set built and made life a lot easier. So we bring all the commercial heifers back to Perth to calve down. It's a very dry block over winter time with a lot of shelter. Bernie, the owner, has planted 180,000 trees there, I think he tells me, over the course of his time, so we get pretty good calf survival there out of heifers, and it saves a hell of a lot of travel.
So Jock, you're also a part of the Southern Australian Livestock Research Council. So what role did you play in that, and how are you a part of that group?
What my role is, it's about setting research priorities for MLA to spend their levies on. So it's, I guess, about sharing regional problems and making sure that MLAs across the producer issues from around the country, but certainly get a lot out of it by industry connections. So it's an East Gippsland Tassie group, and we also meet often with Western Victoria, Central Victoria. So yeah, you get a lot of connections from around the place. And I was saying before that we grew sorghum here this year. I had the connection of a guy in Gippsland who had grown it before, and could get on the phone and ask him questions about it. Rowan Smith from TIA also sits on that committee, and yeah, it's good to have that connection and someone that you can get on the phone to and get advice from, I guess.
So also you're a part of the Longford Red Meat group. When did that form, and how long have you been a part of that?
That was a bit of an extension from when we were a group doing lifetime ewe management and pasture principles. As a group, we've run 2 producer demonstration sites. So the first one was looking at rotational grazing versus set stocking for lambs under pivots, so looking at both clover and ryegrass, which was a really good project, and everyone got a lot out of that. And just recently we've started to run one on lamb mortalities on clover crops, so looking at best ways of managing red gut deaths on clover. So again, yeah, that's only the first year of that, but already we're getting some good data and good understanding out of it, so it's been really beneficial.
Jock, you've got a complex business. You've got livestock and you've got cropping. The livestock alone, it is complex. You've got a number of different enterprises in there. Tell us about the skill development and the sort of things that you exposed yourself and your employees to I guess, manage the business to a high level.
Well, when I came back farming in 2010, I think it was, pretty shortly afterwards we started the Lifetime Ewe Management course with Macquarie Franklin, which led on to Pasture Principles and then extended onto the Longford Red Meat group, which was sort of how I guess, upskilled in grazing management and learnt the tools that we needed. I was using a lot of tapes and stuff for a while, but now we probably have moved away from that a bit to simplify things, because it is quite complex with all the different classes of stock. But we have those tools in the kit for when we need them. So, for example, in the autumn, we always try to build at least 90-day rotation to build us a feed for winter.
You've got dry land and you've got irrigated pastures. What sort of feed-based systems are you running, species, and also how do you work them in with the cropping needs and then livestock requirements through the year?
Starting on the dry land, Mount Directions, we sowed all that down because that was ex-plantation, so that's all ryegrass and white clover predominantly. And here, the dry land, we haven't really done any renovation, so it's predominantly ryegrass base. And under the irrigation, we've got clover and chicory and plantain, and trying to grow a feed base that'll run sheep and cattle.
What if we talk about grazing management with mob sizes? What's your preferred mob size, and will you go through periods of set stocking, rotational grazing? How do you flex on that?
I'm a bit allergic to poly tapes because I hate the surprises. We're normally pretty busy, and when you've got to go and get tapes that have been strewn across the paddock, it just ruins your day. But certainly mob size is our main tool, I guess. We mob up as soon as we can. But at periods of the year, we're not opposed to set stocking. So certainly this time of the year, with everything dry, everything that can go together does. Doesn't matter age groups, or they're all running as one mob. Once we've sorted all our crops out, we'll put them in as big a mob as we can until weaning.
We've got a lot of enterprises going on between livestock, the breeding, the finishing, crops coming in, crops going out, sowing down. How do you satisfy, I guess, all the requirements of those enterprises in relation to finishing livestock and putting weight on animals when you need to get that done? How do you manage that process?
It's a work in progress. So we've got number one priority is our bull sale. So we have a bull sale in mid-March, and the majority of them are used as yearlings. Come back to the farm mid-January, pretty skinny after 6 weeks of serving cows on not a lot of tucker. So we've got to get them up to a suitable weight for a bull sale that people can look at them and see what the genetic potential is, I guess. So, but outside of that, here at Jesfield, we're not really running cattle under pivots, so it's not driven around cattle. We want something that can finish lambs. So yeah, trying to find that high quality pasture that can run both is probably the real challenge.
The white clover, chicory, plantain type mixes, they're working?
Work in progress, yeah. I think we need some grass in there for the cattle. Like, it's a concern, like we up the rate of chicory and plantain now, but yeah, bloat's still a worry. So we've been using clover for finishing lambs and yeah, really happy with the results, but the mortality rates we were finding unacceptable. Good lambs that shouldn't be dying were dying, so we looked to try and incorporate something else probably in their diet, not through any great science. So I reached out to Rowan Smith, who I sit on the SOURAC committee with, about how to best incorporate some chicory into the clover, just methods for getting it established. And yeah, since then I've been playing around with it. So that was started spreading on chicory clover blends and just running the sheep over them, and having really good results. So the establishment became super easy. Like, it was a pretty cheap crop to establish. The seed obviously being the most expensive part, but I thought it was pretty comparable with, you know, an annual brassica crop, and then you don't have that issue of what to do in the autumn. You resow it.
Let's talk about the Mount Direction property. It is livestock focused, but you've got water and you've got infrastructure. How are you going around matching up the return on investment and the finances around an economics irrigated pastures for beef cattle?
Yeah, the irrigation down there has been there for 2 years, so this is its second year. We didn't think there'd been any cash cropping, but we have had spuds down there. So the second year of spuds, we've got one more year and it will have all been cropped, which we thought was pretty risky, but the guy growing seems to think it's not too bad. Yeah, the challenge then will be with beef under the irrigation. So we're in a feeder steer system down there. Well, that's what our target is, not finishing. So how best to utilise that water resource to get a return on investment. It probably was one of those things we did because it was there and the temptation was there, not necessarily a good economic decision.
Then on the dry land areas, which would be to here and out at Mount Direction, who gets that lower quality feed back end of summer and into early autumn?
Back end of summer is easy, so once we've weaned, obviously the cows will clean up anything long. Used, I don't tend to find do a great job of cleaning up, but yeah, cows will clean up pastures for us and set us up for autumn. We've shifted from a spring lambing system to a winter lambing system to try and get as much of that finishing done on the dry land, so we don't have a huge requirement to finish lambs under irrigation. So yeah, I guess it's more a move to make the dry land system stand on its own, get as much weight into those lambs rather than relying on growing feed under irrigation to
water then goes for crops. That's a priority.
Yep.
Cash crop business. Yep.
That's the theory.
Yep.
Righto, Jock. I want to talk about something now that is pretty important to today. I want to talk around cost of production and benchmarking. So, could we start by talking about what you guys do as part of being in a benchmarking group?
Definitely. So yeah, we've been benchmarking since 2012, I think, which was just a matter of putting in all your inputs, I guess, and outputs from the farm, and then getting your performance back. We joined a group in 2017, a group of Tasmanians, which is so then going on from the actual benchmarking to then discussing everyone's result as a discussion group, I guess. So we meet 4 times a year. 3 of those times are on farms, so we've just had the group here recently with the day dedicated basically to looking at our business and where we can improve. And one of those is just going over the performance for the year and looking at the various enterprises and looking at what's driving profitability in those enterprises. It's been the biggest driver for our business, and most of what we do is driven around that as opposed to necessarily industry best practice. So I guess the 2 main things that's given us really good financial literacy and understanding the performance of the business, the role that debt can play, I guess. Yeah, giving us more confidence to take on debt and expand, and then at a farm level, looking at our systems and trying to set up the most profitable systems that we can. So yeah, that's driven us to winter lambing of our ewes, driven us to the feeder system for the commercials, and trying to maximise the high value crops under irrigation.
In terms of your red meat production business, how important would you say cost of production is to you guys?
Yeah, really important, because I suppose it's the only thing we can control. We don't have a lot of control over price received, so it is the main driver. Whereas the cropping business, it's more focused about seeing which crops are the best performers and growing as many of them as we can. Yeah, with sheep and cattle, it's all about cost of production.
Yep. Obviously, it's been an interesting couple of years in terms of the seasons that we've endured. There's been a lot of feeding going on, a lot of thoughts around that. So, last year wasn't great, and this year's not shaping up to be great. What are you guys doing in terms of setting yourself up for a period like we're enduring at the moment?
Yep, certainly. So yeah, the last year would have definitely been my hardest year farming, season-wise. Nothing was easy. It was work for all year round, right? Nothing sort of came as a free hit. This year, I think having had that late November rain, we've grown a bulk of feed, so we're in a position now where probably not dissimilar to last year. We're probably a fair bit drier than last year, if anything, but there's fodder available. We've probably gained a lot of confidence out of last year about how we can manage and get through.
So do you think last year's experience has changed your attitude going forward a bit?
I think it has, yeah. Yeah, definitely. Like, to be able to see how the cattle responded after being locked up for a long time last year and fed straw. I was expecting a train wreck. It was pretty awesome how everything responded when it did rain. And I'm sure it will. As we go forward. So.
Without a doubt. Now, Jock, I want to talk to you about what the future looks like. What are your goals for the business, and what kind of direction do you see things going down the track?
We haven't got clear written down goals. It's something that we need to revisit and do, but I guess at the moment it's probably about growing the business. We've got 3 boys, growing the business to enable succession. Run a profitable business so that we can grow it to enable everyone an opportunity later in life. And I guess one of the key goals for us has always been as a family to grow but still maintain a work-life balance. So yeah, we're not growing by working longer and longer hours. It's important to have a bit of family time too.
On behalf of the Red Meats Working Group, I'd like to thank Jock for hosting the virtual farm tour and giving us an insight to his business. So thank you, Jock. I hope everyone's enjoyed the tour, and I'd also like to thank Pinion Advisory for sponsoring today's tour. Thank you.